now. Fox, the kick is up, and it's good. But Carroll...
People, good morning. Thank you for starting your week with us here on First Take. And I have a feeling that today is going to be a fun show by the likes of Twitter this weekend. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, Molly Qerim here.
I mean, this could get like ODB versus Josh, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it could.
Really?
You guys are worse than those two.
Really? It might. A little later in this show.
I had a wonderful
Oh, you had a wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
No,
because
your record.
I would like the record to show I called every single game. I told
you can tell the world that.
I told you about your Cowboys.
Well, wait.
Green Bay.
I don't think you got that one right.
We knew Green Bay was going to win. I told you the Redskins would be the only
we
team
didn't pick Green
in the
Bay.
NFC East would win. I tried to tell you this. I told you the Steelers would beat the Broncos. I tried to tell you.
like 3
but
games.
You know what? I only care about one.
Okay, well, that's all I care about.
We'll get to that a little bit later.
Well, well, wait a second. Congratulations on picking against the team you allegedly grew up liking,
well, you know,
the New York Giants, and congratulations to Molly for picking the Giants, too, just for the record.
That's a difference.
Just for the record.
But you're not going to...
They made a comeback.
Oh, they made a comeback.
I specifically...
Whatever. They're not the Steelers. They couldn't get it done.
I specifically requested that we wait to bring up the game I want to bring up because I want him to wait.
I know.
I thought we were going to let it go. We're not.
That's it. That's all I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying. We know it's your show. It's okay. You tell us what to do.
Please,
we just do what you say.
Patriarch
Everybody
to
know
my
that.
left.
About that. That's right.
Are you guys ready to work?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. It was a thriller yesterday. He looked clean at MetLife. But the main event was Josh Norman versus Odell Beckham, what Skip just alluded to, and it got ugly. ODB had 3 unnecessary penalties, the first player with 3 personal fouls in a game in over 4 years. Now, according to our Adam Schefter, a 1-game suspension is likely. Check out this tweet. It didn't stop after the game from Josh Norman for Odell Beckham. You guys see this? Reaching for the L, one-handed. Weak, Norman. You're better than that. Stephen A., should Beckham be punished, and if so, how?
Good morning again, Molly.
Good morning.
Skip Bayless. Not only should Odell Beckham Jr. be punished, he should be suspended for at least 1 game. Our very own Adam Schefter is reporting that that is likely. I spoke to some folks connected with the league office. They've told me that as well. The likelihood is he will be suspended a game. I will tell you that the only reason that I don't believe he should be suspended for the last 2 games is based off of a conversation I had about an hour ago with primetime Deion Sanders before he got on the plane from L.A. back to his home in Dallas. That might have modified my position just a touch. But there is no question that Odell Beckham Jr. should be suspended for a game. When you launch your helmet into Josh Norman in that fashion, you have crossed the line. And when you take into account the fact that the league obviously is fixated on the whole concussion issue, on the helmet-to-helmet hits and things of that nature, and that stuff has permeated the NFL for the last several years. They are fixated on this issue. They are sticklers for this issue. You knew it coming into this game. You knew it coming into the NFL, that you would take the opportunity to do that to another player, particularly at the cornerback position against a wide receiver. You got to remember, you're not a defensive lineman, you're not a linebacker, you're a cornerback, and he's a wide receiver. To do something like that, you clearly had the most vicious intent for that kind of action. That alone warrants the 1-game suspension. Now, I take it a step further. I think Odell Beckham Jr. is a superstar. I think this brother's one of the top 2. I ain't going to call him number 1 anymore, not after what I saw Antonio Brown do yesterday, reminding me that I should slap myself even thinking that somebody is better than him right now at the wide receiver spot, but we'll get into that later. When I think about Odell Beckham Jr., this dude is a superstar of the highest order as far as I'm concerned, and he has conducted himself like nothing more than a petulant child. I understand that there are things going out on the field, but let's just think about some of the things that we're pointing to, Skip. The shoes that you're wearing, you know, on the field before the game, that is a violation. You know it, you did it anyway. The league calls you, you don't return their phone calls. But you definitely going to return their phone calls when it's an opportunity for you to get paid. You'll return people's phone calls again. Odell Beckham Jr. does not realize that the word is out about him in terms of not just who he is as a player, but who he could potentially be as a person. I don't know any of these things about him for sure. I know that we're hearing a lot of these things. And then you see him go out on that field. You got to remember, there was a play that was taking place, and in the midst of the play, while Josh Norman was going to help somebody else, one of his teammates, get a tackle, that's when Odell Beckham Jr., who had got slapped upside the head by Josh Norman, came in lunging with his helmet. You know what? For all we know, Josh Norman is concussed this morning because of a hit like that. It could be. It is possible. There is no excuse for it. And I didn't even get into the selfish element of it all because he was so caught up from opening tap about him. If Odell Beckham Jr. had came to play in the first half, the way that he came to play in the second half, the Giants might have won this game. But it was so much about him and so little about his team that he essentially cost them in so many different ways. Can we definitively say he cost them the game? No. But we can sit up there and say his actions certainly did not help them. I thought he should have been taken out of the game by Tom Coughlin, at least for a few plays. I thought somebody should have talked to him. I thought he should have been checked, okay? Ultimately, when he did that hit, I thought he should have been ejected because had that been a defensive player, you damn well know he would have been ejected from the game. And the fact that we're sitting here today with all of these nuggets of evidence speaks to some real serious questions about who Odell Beckham Jr. is, what he wants to be. And as far as I'm concerned, when you take all of those things into consideration, there is no doubt in my mind that it warrants a one-game suspension. He's lucky that it's not expected to be more than that.
Okay. Are we also going to suspend the referee crew for one game for its inactions in allowing and enabling all this to go on and on and on and happen?
Well, that's fair, but you and I both know we always complain about the officials.
Okay.
You know, I mean, so I don't disagree there.
In all my years of watching football, I've never seen anything escalate to this degree. Play after play after play after play. They were having a fist fight through every snap of that first quarter of that game. Every snap. It's fist fighting. I've seen the great Dion. You're going to talk about him in a minute, but he's got. I remember once he got into it with the receiver like this, but this was every play. It was, and I think it was on it was on a Sunday. I was just going to say it was a Monday night, but my point is that they are swinging on each other on every play, and I know a couple of flags flew early, but you could have put a stop to it. Terry McCauley is the head referee, and his group could have put an early stop to this. I did not blame Tom Coughlin for putting an early stop by yanking him off the field and reprimanding him, because let's face it, Tom Coughlin was coaching for his job yesterday. He was on his way to losing his 5th game of the last 7, and they are on their way to missing the playoffs for the 4th straight year. And I think Tom Coughlin was just desperate enough that he just looked the other way, going against everything he believes in and stands for years and years and years. He just said, I got no choice but to hope they don't throw this kid out, because if I have any hope of coming back from 35-7, it's going to be because of this kid. And it was because of this kid who caught the touchdown pass that tied the game at 35. So I'm not going to condemn Tom Coughlin in desperate circumstances for this. But let me tell you this. I'm going to call the league out as hypocritical here. And I'll tell you why. To me, they are now reacting to the reaction of what happened last night and into this morning. I think they're just sitting back, gauging the talk show type reaction, and they're gauging the outcry and saying, uh-oh, I guess we better do what didn't get done yesterday, which is suspend. He should have been ejected yesterday. Clearly, we would all agree, especially after the flying helmet to helmet. You just eject him. Josh Norman obviously was not guiltless here. He participated also. He helped escalate it. And you want to talk about a guy who can get inside people's heads. He gets inside everybody's head. He plays against Des Bryant included. We saw that on Thanksgiving. Here's my point. To me, the league has slowly but surely treated Odell Beckham Jr. like an untouchable. To me, you always talk about how they want to promote these quarterbacks, these golden boy quarterbacks. To me, Odell Beckham, as much a promotional priority as any Peyton Manning or Tom Brady you want to talk about. Cover of Madden, greatest catch ever, video game come to life. I think he became maybe the biggest drawing card beyond Tom Brady, the cheater and liar, quote unquote, you know, who's taken a hit to his reputation. Peyton Manning's been hurt on and off all year, faded. All of a sudden, it felt to me like the league belonged to Odell Beckham Jr. And I told you off the Monday night game, I thought he got away with 2 replay reviews where they looked the other way and gave him the benefit of the doubt because he's Odell Beckham Jr. And all of a sudden yesterday, all those refs, they're looking the other way, like, we can't flag him because he's the guy now. The league is hinging on his popularity. We can't. They let him get away with near murder yesterday, and they let Josh get away with a lot of junk yesterday, too.
Well, Josh Norman can't be excused in this
respect. He cannot.
In this respect. First of all, they were going tit for tat with one another. Yeah. I want to be clear. I believe Odell Beckham Jr. should be suspended for 1 game because of that launch helmet to helmet into Josh Norman's head. That's why I believe he should be ejected. Any other play that went on, it's just involved penalties, unsportsmanlike, or whatever you want to call it, between him and Josh Norman. You could go back.
No, but how long do you let it go? How far do you let it go?
Well, again, the point that I'm trying to make is that you can penalize them. You can sit there and take yards away and leave it to their team to bring them under control. But I didn't think anything that they did with one another in the throes of a contested football game was beyond the pale.
Really? Throwing punches at each other?
Well, like I said, you got your helmet on. Okay, it's not like you're ripping the helmet off and hitting the person with the helmet or something like that. You got a helmet on. You're getting in the fights. It's a very physical, violent game. And to me, a 15-yard penalty or whatever the case may be, a bunch of them would have sufficed. The only thing that I saw that warranted an ejection was the helmet-to-helmet hit by Odell Beckham Jr. Now, when I spoke to Prime, because watching him last night on the NFL Network doing his thing, like I watch him every Sunday night.
Yep, I do too.
That's my man, okay? He made the point when he was talking to me this morning. He said, Stephen A., linemen go, you know, they launch their helmets into you off the bat from the line of scrimmage. Linebackers coming in, they do it. The only reason why this is an issue, because he disagrees with me, of course, the only reason why this is different is because we're talking about a wide receiver and a cornerback. So he brings that into the equation. What I do to counter that is, again, highlighting the fact that we know the league that we're in this day and age. We've been educated about concussions and its profound impact.
We get that.
Odell Beckham Jr. knows that.
Okay.
And so he walked in there with that level of intent. Now, we also hear before the game, Josh Norman was saying some things to him that's not conducive to being repeated on these airwaves. We saw quotes after the game where him and Cortland Finnegan alluded to those things as well.
They did. They question, let's just say they questioned his manhood.
They questioned his manhood, and we'll leave it at that.
All right.
And a lot of guys are doing that.
But it's just great trash talk. If it works, it works.
You gotta be able to control your emotions regardless.
No. I'm not excusing it. I'm not excusing it at all. I'm simply saying that Odell Beckham Jr. walked in with that level of heat because they seem to be excessive in questioning.
But that's Odell's fault. That's Odell's fault.
I totally agree.
All is fair in love and football. I'm sorry. You're going to hear it.
I totally agree.
Okay.
But he's obviously a bit more sensitive to it than most football players would be. Why, I don't know. But he seems to be, and they seem to notice, and as a result, they are coming at him. Like, you know what I'm saying. So now that we got that out the way, understand that he brought all of that on the field, which means that his reaction to it wasn't just about football. It was about something extra, and he put that on display. And you can't do that. You just can't do that. So he was excessive.
All that pregame trash talk that got under his skin and into his head led to the opening pass that hits him right in the hand.
And he dropped.
And could have changed the whole game.
That's right, and he dropped.
Seriously, if he catches that, stadium explodes.
That's right.
I don't know what's going to happen in that game.
That's right.
Do they have an edge that they could hold on to? Maybe.
Josh Norman is not innocent in any of this, but he didn't do anything that I deem ejectable. I don't believe that he did anything that warrants an ejection. Odell Beckham Jr. should have been ejected.
Okay, how do you
from that one
how do you defend the referee crew for not ejecting him off
horrendous.
That? It's
horrendous.
I mean,
horrendous.
seriously.
They should lose a check for the game.
Okay, that's what I just said. So you got to suspend the crew, right?
Fine,
or the head referee.
And I guess to get to your point, most people don't really care about that. We know that they deserve to be fined, if not, docked a game's pay. But no, most people don't care about that. But that's a given. I'm saying when it comes to the suspension, there's only one person that needs to be suspended, and that's Odell Beckham Jr., because no matter what Josh Norman did, he didn't do that. He didn't launch his helmet into Odell Beckham Jr.'s head, by the way, in the middle of a pile, because Josh Norman could have gotten hit by somebody else at that time. If you watch that hit in slow motion and you see the way his head snaps, I mean, look at what the NFL is going through just to prevent something like that. A movie is being made because of stuff like that that's happening.
I got that. I'm with you. He needs to be suspended for at least a game.
At least a game.
But the point is, big picture, his reputation as the best receiver in pro football took a big hit yesterday, I think, and I hope, because it deserved to take a big hit. Just his reputation in general.
I don't even think that Odell Beckham Jr. realizes how much he's hurt himself. He's hurt himself very badly because he came across yesterday as incredibly selfish. I mean, I don't ever want to hear another word about T.O. and other people like that again after what we saw from Odell Beckham, because that was all about him.
He was overly emotional.
All about him.
Down.
It's like you seemed out of control, like you were unable to contain yourself, to control yourself, not to mention the fact that, again, everything was at the price of your teammates. Eventually, you got it under control, but it was after you had already cost them so much. And it was shocking to see. Look, I'm on the phone with Skip, my sister Linda, the biggest Giants fan that I know, even bigger than you. She was like, you got to yank him. You got to yank him. And she bleeds Giant Big Blue. Just bleeds it. But it was like he was just out of control.
Coughlin's job on the line, I think he was just like, hey, this is my only shot.
That's fair. You're absolutely right. That's fair about Coughlin. But it does say something, and the reason why Odell Beckham Jr.'s reputation is taking a hit and needs to take a hit is because he didn't just come across as somebody that was a bit too sensitive and definitely out of control. The word selfish has to get added to the equation because he didn't seem to care about how anything was affecting his team. It was all about him. And we didn't get that impression to this degree until yesterday. I think nobody's going to question his skills because the brother is big time. But his level of selfishness, it was alarming to see. It was out of control.
Last point. He also has gotten a pass to me because he's so good with the media, because it's almost Manziel-like where you're one guy off the field in front of the cameras. You know, Johnny can put on a good face, be very convincing. Yes, sir. No, sir. And Odell can be very forthright with what he says and very mature and eloquent. We've had him on the show. And then he gets on the field and you say, who is that guy? Well, he just comes undone because we even have Ryan Clark has mentioned to me that the biggest trash talker he encountered last year in his last year playing was Odell Beckham Jr. He just talks constantly. Well, he just ran up against a guy, Josh Norman, who can out-talk the talker. And got under his skin in the warm-ups.
Well, you listen to what Josh Norman said about him. Those are some very, very powerful statements. Took the mask, has come off. You know, he's dancing like Michael Jackson. Are you a football player or not? Or what I mean, it was all of that stuff.
They went for the throw.
They went for that throw, and they meant every word of it.
That's not the first time, and players can normally control
it. Was the kind of quote. Look, I know the fellas. It was the kind of quotes where the only reason they weren't waiting for him after the game is because of the NFL Shield. Had it not been for that, you would have had some cats waiting for Odell Beckham Jr. after that game because some of that stuff just seemed that excessive. And I'm telling you, it's just bad right now. And his reputation is going to take a hit for this because you cannot be that selfish. And he is.
And the last thing I want to say, you don't become a superstar by your antics. And I think it distracts from his play. He doesn't need all the extra stuff.